Welcome back, Maverick Traders, to your Psychology Corner. And today we're going to talk about greed. I might surprise you a little bit about some of the things I say about greed. And it should be a little bit counterintuitive. That's how emotions work in the financial markets. As always, just a quick reminder to make sure that you put these things into your trading plan. The idea is to become familiar with the different things that strike a chord with you. What things might you have a tendency to fall into? And then put barriers, figure out ways to flip them around and use them to your advantage. Sometimes your greatest weakness can become your greatest ally, in that if you know that you're susceptible to this certain emotion, you'll find yourself falling into that trap and you can flip it around to make money from it, right? If I'm susceptible to getting caught into catching falling knives or whatever, I catch myself and I flip that around and take a bearish position that can be profitable. Learning what you're susceptible to could be your best trade setup. So with greed, how many of you follow a stock after you exit to see what it does, right? You're just kind of counting the dollars. Or if it goes higher, you say, this is how much I could have made. I can't believe I missed out on that, and so on. Or even more to the point, maybe if it goes higher than your exit price, you never will get back in. You'll just kind of say, well, I can't get in now. You have to learn. So greed, they say, is the fear of missing out, right? So you have to learn, and this has been my experience with greed, and maybe yours is a little different, but I like the Gordon Gekko. Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. I actually think that I don't know that greed is the right term, because I think that can get you into trouble. But why are you buying and what are you buying? If I'm trading in, the strongest markets and trying to profit from those strongest markets, I think that's wise. Now, I shouldn't be buying something because I'm fearful of missing out on it. I should be buying it because it meets my system and my criteria and so on. But actually, I would say wherever the general public thinks something doesn't make sense as it's running higher, there's usually good reason for that to be happening in the financial markets. I can't tell you how many times that you'll hear people just pound the table about XYZ stock or about this market, and it's a bubble and so on. And those should be the areas you're trading to the upside. If there's a bubble forming, you want to be involved in that as a shorter term trader. Now, I'm not saying investors should pile all their money in, but as a trader, we want to be where that action is, and in many cases we want to be going into those areas that are hated by most, but the trend is working. Boy, that just adds kindling to the fire. That those are logs that can just be put on the fire to make this thing explode. So how many times in the last 10 years have you heard people say Tesla's a bubble? Maybe eventually that thing will be a bubble and it'll burst, but I'll tell you, it's gone up hundreds or even thousands of percent. Same thing with Amazon, and same thing with on down the list, right? So I don't look at greed. I think, again, that's the wrong terminology maybe, because we don't want to be. I also see traders that are kind of like, well, I want to get this because I'd really hate for it to go without me, right? Don't be buying something because you couldn't stomach it going without you. But if you're in the strongest, best areas, the places where bubbles are being formed, there's actually a lot of money to be made in that as a trader, where you can be nimble and you can position size so that your risk is contained, but you can make multiples on that risk. If I go in and I take a trade that risks 2%, it can make 6 and 8% relatively quickly as I trade those areas. So greed can certainly create bubbles as people pile into things that are making money for others. That's a short-term trader paradise. Greed can most often cause you to take positions based on fear of missing out, and this is really where you get into problems, where you just kind of go against your system and say, I've watched this thing go up for so long and it's so painful or something. It's almost into our next topic, which we'll talk about envy. When you start buying something because somebody else is making money and somebody else is doing well, and that creates a lot of problems. But if it's just, I'm waiting for the right pitch to swing at, but I'm going into those strongest of markets and strongest of areas, there can be a lot of opportunity. Don't confuse greed with motivation. You know, the motivation and desire and determination to do well, those are all great characteristics. So, that kind of, a lot of times if you're motivated and if you're competitive, it can be kind of seen in the financial markets as being greedy or something. That's not the case at all in my mind. The desire to make money, look, we all have, every human, I guess, has that desire to make some money. So that does not make us unique, and we should be motivated to do well in all that we do. Learn to trade with a little bit more robotic, kind of Terminator-esque style, where you're not trading because it's the fear of missing out. You're trading because, hey, this is the right market, fits my system, I've got the right criteria, I've got the right position size. So I'm not trading it based off of emotion. I'm trading it because it fits my criteria. Greed, for lack of a better term, is good.